Hey everyone, this is Kaiser War here, and I just recently beat Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I don't want this video to be mega long. This is not going to be a review or anything. This is going to be more of my pros and cons kind of thing, where I just need an excuse to talk about what I liked about the game and what I didn't like, and I didn't want to make this video too damn long. So yeah, let's talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have been waiting for this game for a while now, but I never got a chance to actually get it until earlier this year. And I bought Persona 5 Royal around the time, and I kind of got consumed by Persona 5 Royal, and it took literally all my time. I managed to beat the game way faster than most of the time I ever played 7 Remake, which sucks. And now I got Persona 5 Strikers. I don't want that to happen again, so, it took me a time to beat 7 Remake, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time. Now, I want to talk about the pros of this game. Pros, gorgeous game. The game just looks it's pushing the fact that, it's pushing the PS4 to its limits, right? And the fact that the game is 80 gigs with 2 discs on the PS4 is crazy. Now, I don't know how the game is on PS5 because I haven't seen the intergrade stuff yet because, I really don't want to think about that. But I have seen what intermission looks like, and it looks really good. But yeah, the game's it's pretty gorgeous. It looks damn good. Now, there's some character models that look a little off, but otherwise the game looks just really good. There really isn't no point of pushing that into the ground. Square always makes really good games. Another pro I like is that the game really feels like the spirit of Final Fantasy VII. This game is Final Fantasy VII, but it's expanded upon, and there's some characters that pretty much have been expanded upon from their original selves within the section of Midgar. Hell, I want to say that certain characters really feel like they've been changed for the better due to their expansion. For example, Aerith. I like the way they've done with Aerith in this game. I like what they've done with Barret in this game. I like what they've done with Cloud and Tifa. I just like what they've done with all the main characters. There's some other side characters I like what they've done with, but this game really feels like 7 because a lot of people had issues with how 7's been handled. It's series like Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core. A lot of people don't really like the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, but I feel like, and the fears that people have from the compilation kind of rolled into the remake. It's like, oh man, how are they going to handle the characters? And then when they saw Tetsuya and Nomura, who's one of the people in charge of the game, people lost their shit. And I feel sorry for Nomura because he really doesn't deserve all the hate he gets just because he does stuff in Kingdom Hearts. But I personally believe that they did an amazing job characterizing the main cast in this game. I really love it, especially Aerith. Aerith's just madness on wheels. Madness in a pink goddamn dress. Let's freaking go. Anyway, another thing I like is the amazing OST. Again, this is a Final Fantasy game, so having an amazing OST is kind of par for the course. But I like all the different composers that's come together to make this one game. I really did like that. There's a ton of composers that come together to make just this game, from all over Final Fantasy. There's some specific songs I do like Critical Shot, Fight for Survival. I like the hip-hop version of the Chocobo theme. I like the theme Hollow, done by Nobuo Uematsu. There's a boss theme called Infinity's End, done by Masashi Hamauzu, who did music at Final Fantasy X and 13 and a bunch of other Final Fantasy works. Lay Down Some Rubber, done by Misato Suzuki, who did some music in Final Fantasy 13-2 and Lightning Returns. I like the One Winged Angel Rebirth version of this theme because it's kind of cool. It's a collaboration between Yasunori Nishiki, who's a composer in Final Fantasy VII and Remake, and also did some music in Kingdom Hearts. He also helped out Hamauzu to do the One Winged Angel Rebirth theme. There's a song called 7 Seconds Till the End, which plays near the end of the game, done by Nishiki. I like Reno's boss theme, which was done by Yoshitaka Suzuki. And I also like Under the Riding Pieces battle version theme done by Shotaro Shima, who also did, funny enough, the Critical Shot theme. I like these songs. They're all really damn good songs. And the fact that Remake has 200 songs alone is just maddening. Just for the Midgar section of the game, it's really maddening. It's ugh. Another thing I like is they added the depth they added to Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, because Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, you really only know them for just a little bit in the original Midgar section, which only ran for 5 hours, and you really barely saw them in those original 5 hours. But in this game, because of how Midgar has been expanded, you get to see them more, you get to see their home life, their family life, you get to learn more about, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. And I like Jesse in this game. I like how they portray her as being just so infatuated with Cloud. She showed hints of it back in the original 7, but it's full blown. She's just all over the guy in this game. I find that really funny. That's where most of the humor from this game comes from, and I really like it. And another thing I like about this game is like the interesting meta concept to how they work with this game. Essentially, this game is like a remake, right? But it's like using the concept of making a remake as the basis for its game. There's these enemies known as Whispers, who basically keep the course of the planet on the right path, right? And it's essentially a meta commentary about how fans of Final Fantasy VII don't want the game to deviate too far from the original. But every time anything deviates too far off, the Whispers come in to correct the course. And I kind of like the idea of Final Fantasy VII being turned into this meta commentary about what does it mean to be a remake? What does it mean to remake a game, and how fan expectations are, and how far can we go with it? And I like that. That's a really interesting concept. So yeah, another pro for me. But not every game is free of any kind of criticism and cons, because there's a couple of cons I have. Not too many to ruin the overall game for me, but there are some I have. One thing I don't like about this game is the concept of flying enemies. And, you know, I'm not against the idea of, you know, flying enemies. I'm just against how they function in this game. Because of how certain characters work, you really only have a chance to kill flying enemies, really, with characters like Barret or Aerith, because they are able to attack from a long distance, but they don't do that much damage without magic, and you gotta maintain your magic. Not only gotta maintain your magic, but your ATB gauge, but it's much easier to kill these enemies, these flying enemies, with Tifa or Cloud, but they have to get just basically, I don't know how to describe it, but like thrown into the air in order to do it, because they can't jump into attack, right? And they have to be awkwardly thrown into the air to track the enemy down. There's a chance they can miss it, and then it sucks. I don't like the idea of flying enemies in this game, because most of the time you gotta like fight flying enemies, you don't have access to Tifa or Barret, and that's what sucks. Like, you gotta get lucky, and like they don't do that much damage compared to, like, you know, Cloud or Tifa. That sucks. But yeah, I hope like the next game they implement a jump button. I have no freaking idea why Final Fantasy games just come out with the inability to jump sometimes. It's like inconsistent. It's like, oh yeah, the first 13 comes out with the inability to jump, and then you freaking get the 13 too, and like in turns, then you can jump, but I don't know, man. Like, whatever. Anyway, there's some padding in this game as well. It's another con I have, but it's not too much. But there are some parts that I kind of don't like. It's like, for example, like when I get to like the final, no. There's this part in the sewers below Midgar, right? Below Wall Market, at least. And there's this thing called an KAZUSHIGE. It's like an enemy that takes like an item away from you. You gotta basically chase it all over the goddamn sewers to catch it. And like that shit takes forever, because like how slow the game gets to at that point, because like you have to crawl under a lot of things, which takes a minute, and a lot of other enemies get in the way. That was one of the most blatant forms of padding, you know? That was one of the most blatant forms of padding ever. But like, there's a bunch of other parts, like, you know, longer than usual dungeons, which I can understand to a little bit, but still, there's this part in goddamn the Shinra headquarters where like there's a section that takes about an hour to get through, full of bosses and shit, and you don't get a chance to save. It sucks. But yeah, there's also like mini games you gotta play where you gotta like lift one thing and move Aerith to another side, or play someone as Tifa. Like yeah. Like, there's some parts in the game that I don't mind when they're extra long, because like there's some parts in it that keep it from being too long, but still, there's some parts I'm just not a fan of, you know? Speaking of things that are too long, some of the vehicle sections in this game are too long, I swear. Because like, there was like the first vehicle section you ever play where you gotta fight, like, you gotta go through the whole thing and you gotta fight Roche at the end, which it was okay because it didn't take me too long to get through it, but it still was long. And there's like the final vehicle section in the game, which I think is probably the worst of it all, because you got, not only you can only fight at a certain, you can only attack an enemy at a certain angle. Like, you have to like get on the right side of the lane and then lean over to the left side of the lane to attack them, because if you don't get a chance to hit anyone that way, and it sucks, and I hate it. And on top of that, after you beat that long ass section, you gotta fight a goddamn boss at the end. I'm like, oh god damn it. Which I already knew the boss was in the original 7, but ugh, I hate it. But yeah, the vehicle section is a little bit too long, but thankfully when you start a hard mode run, they give you a chance to skip the bike sections, which I really like. Thank freaking god. And there's also another thing I don't like about this game is Sephiroth's voice actor. Just like Zack's voice actor, it's going to take some time to get used to, because honestly, Zack and Sephiroth were like done so well in the voices that we know him as that it's kind of hard to see them as anyone else, you know? Zack's voice actor, Rick Gomez, is kind of really like him, you know? It's like playing No More Heroes, if anyone knows that series, and you remove Robert Atkin Downs as Travis. Like, the voice makes that character, and I think that Rick Gomez really makes Zack as well, and replacing him, which obviously is going to happen because everyone got replaced, it's still not good to me, you know? Like, it's going to get some getting used to, and I think Sephiroth's the same way. I kind of don't like Sephiroth's voice so much, but I feel like it's going to just being, you know, getting some used to. So, and another thing about the voice acting is, like, I like everyone else's, though. Like, I like what they've done with Cloud, Aerith, Barrett, Tifa. Like, everyone else's voice actor sounds really fine. There's some characters I feel a little bit off, like Leslie, which I don't like all that much. But other than that, like, the main outliers for being my favorites in regards of voices is Sephiroth, Zack, and Sephiroth, and mostly those two. Yeah, just mostly Sephiroth and Zack. Everyone else I could probably do, and Leslie, but, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much the cons. Not too many. And finally, my more neutral section about the things that I'm still mixed on to this day, right? One thing I'm mixed on is about how they're bringing Zack into the picture, right? Because of what the game is setting up, and I can't really say much because the full version of the full series isn't out yet because there's still more parts of the remake. But the way they are setting this up is that Zack is like this singularity, right? The moment Zack survives, it changes everything in Final Fantasy VII. Because, you know, once Zack dies, you know, Cloud takes up his sword, and that's how 7 really begins. So if they're treating Zack as if he's the starting point of this game, and if he lives, how does that affect the rest of FF7 going forward? I like the idea, but I don't know how well they're going to execute it. Because sometimes Square isn't exactly perfect in all the things they're done, right? They're not exactly the cleanest track record. I have faith they're going to do this well, but you never know. You never know. It's like one of those things, like, you're kind of scared for it. And I remember that comment Aerith makes near the end of the game about terrible, boundless freedom, and that shit really gets me. I'm like, oh god, how's that gonna turn out? But I like the idea of them bringing Zack because he might play a part into this. And I kind of like that because we get to see more of him, you know. And I like that. Because this is a remake, you know? This is a remake. This is a new Zack doing new things. So we'll probably get to see more, you know, stuff of new Zack here. And another thing is I'm feeling mixed on is how much of the FF7 compilation will bring in and what it means to the newcomers who are coming into this game for the first time. Because Final Fantasy VII Remake, as much as they wanted to call it a remake, it's not exactly a game you can come into without the knowledge of previous Final Fantasy VII games in regards to the compilation. When they mean remake, they mean remake the compilation, not just remake 7. They're remaking like this new alternate version of the series, you know, of FF7. This is not a remake for people to get into for the first time. No, it's a remake of this whole thing. And that, I like the idea, like, as I mentioned before, I like the meta concept, right? I like the meta concept, but like, in regards to people wanting to play this game for the first time, it's going to be tough for them, right? Because not only they have to have knowledge of the series, but they kind of have knowledge of the rest of the compilation, knowing how Intermission went down and how they brought in characters from like Nero and Vice from Dirge of Cerberus, and how Hojo mentioned S-types and G-types Genova cells, like, you know, Sephiroth and Genesis, or Gillian, I forgot, I don't know if they're remembering, I don't know if they're like referencing Genesis or Angel's mom there. And they're also bringing in characters from light novels like Leslie and Kyrie, which, I mean, to be fair, I can forgive them because, you know, they're not really too important to those light novels. But in regards of wanting to know certain characters like Zack, because I definitely know there's some people who play 7 Remake because their first Final Fantasy 7 game, and they have no freaking idea who the hell Zack is. So you're going to look up Crisis Core about that, and if you want to play... But, like, in a way, I can see this as these are characters being remade, redone, right? So, like, maybe you don't need that, but, like, if you're introducing them like this without too much of a build-up to do so, then you're going to have to know the rest of the series in order to do so, and that's a good and bad thing, you know, because you still have to rely on your, you know, previous knowledge of FF7 to understand what is going on. And the whole game's meta concept is based around that. You have to know what 7 is to know what this game is trying to tell you. And you know, that can either be a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. Me personally, because I know 7 and I know these characters and I have a relationship with all the characters in the compilation, I kind of know this stuff. But for a first-time person, I kind of feel for them because they have no idea what's going on, at least in certain parts. But we won't know. We won't know until like later games in the future come out and see how they're going to handle all of this. Because obviously they're remaking the compilation Final Fantasy VII as the remake, so we're just going to have to see what comes on later. And I kind of like the idea. I like this idea of, you know, what they're going to do next without being shackled by fan expectations and what people will want the game to be like from here on out. And I like the idea, so we're just going to have to sit here and see. But overall, I enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I really do want to play it again whenever I get the mood to do so, but I got other games to deal with right now. But other than that, I'm out, guys. I'll see y'all next time. I hope you all have a great day. Goodbye.